Alrighty, 3, 2, 1. How's it, everybody, and welcome to a long-awaited episode of Culture the Podcast. I say that for those of you that have been following the channel. I took a little bit of a hiatus. Quite a few reasons why, which I'm going to get into. But yeah, I'm going to start doing them again. This is kind of just a prelude into what's coming. The whole reason I started doing the podcast was kind of like a New Year's resolution for me. It was something new, something that I wanted to try. I wanted to give myself more time to connect with friends and family and stuff like that, and just sit down and have conversations with people. And then throughout the conversations, I wanted to explore different things. I wanted things to just kind of become a platform for people to talk about things, talk about where they come from, talk about society, talk about things that make their lives difficult, or things that they love to do that kind of takes them away from all the BS that society, and just people that just, for some reason, we live in a society now where everyone just wants to be negative and hateful and just kind of bring people down. And it was something that was kind of bothering me. I wanted to give not only myself a platform, but other people a platform to kind of speak their mind and talk about what's going on in their life. And just kind of let people know that everyone has a voice. Everyone has something that's going on in their life. And just because you don't know that story doesn't necessarily mean that you have to just be so crude or crass about people expressing themselves. You know what I mean? And we live in this cancel culture now. It's kind of like people who voice their opinions, whether you agree with them or not. If you don't agree with them, you feel like it's just okay to just bash their opinions and bash their philosophies on life and their ideals on life, and just totally act like, oh, a dog's getting raped outside apparently. Jesus Christ. I might have to close that window. Here I thought doing it inside would be better because you wouldn't hear any of the dogs or any of the street noise, but apparently can't get away from it. Jesus Christ. Anyways, like I was saying, so what a dick. We live in this cancel culture where just people just feel like because they disagree with your thoughts or your philosophies on life or your ideals or whatever you grew up, whatever you grew up understanding in life, just because I don't agree with it, that it's okay for me to just tell you how shitty your ideals are, or your life is, or just totally just voice my opinion like my opinion matters more than yours does. And it's really kind of shitty because it puts people in a rough spot where they feel like they can't say what they want to say, or can't have their thoughts on life or their ideals on life, and almost that they have to fit into this little box of what the rest of the world, and it's not even the rest of the world, it's just a few people, either on social media, or a few people that you may live around your neighborhood, or a few people that just on your feed that are just kind of ranting this hateful shit because they feel like their opinion is so important, when really it's no more important than anybody else's opinion. And should you take their opinion into consideration? Yeah, sometimes, if it's going to benefit you, if it's going to benefit life, if it's going to benefit what's living in a society that makes more sense, then yeah, definitely, you should definitely take constructive criticism. But if people are just shitting on you just for the sake of shitting on you, it's kind of like, fuck you. I don't need to listen to what you have to say. I don't need to take your opinion into consideration, because you're not doing anything to better either yourself or my views on life. You're just saying what you feel because you feel like you're entitled to do so. And it's kind of shitty. It's kind of messed up, which kind of leads me to why I stopped doing the podcast for a while. So I did this all as a little experiment, kind of a New Year's resolution to kind of get closer with my friends and family and get them to do these little podcasts and talk about their lives and talk about things that go on in their lives. And people were starting to give me a lot of shit for it. I don't know what their intentions were or what they were trying to vocalize. I don't know if they were trying to give me constructive criticism, or they thought it was constructive criticism, or they just wanted to hate and just kind of like think it was dumb, or they thought that I was just trying to like get rich off of this, this podcast and be like uh, an influencer or anything like that, if that matter. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, in the back of my mind, it was like it'd be pretty cool if that happened, but by no stretch of the imagination did I think that my opinion was valued more than anybody else's opinion. And I basically just wanted to sit down with friends and family and get to talk to them about stuff that normally you don't get to talk to people about. It's rare that you get to sit down and have an hour, 2 hour conversation with somebody about life and about what they've gone through and about their feelings and stuff like that. Especially with social media and stuff, everything's become so quick, and we expect everything in life just to come as quick as possible, get through it, and move on to the next thing. I feel like we don't even take time anymore to kind of really sit and talk to people about what's going on in their lives, how they're feeling. And I think it also perpetuates a lot of the stuff that we're seeing in society nowadays, where people feel lonely, people feel ostracized, people feel like they don't have anybody that cares, and it's really kind of sad, and it's really kind of fucked up, really. I don't want anybody feeling that way, especially the people that I care about and the people that I love, and that mean something to me. So I reached out to a lot of them, and a lot of them were just really shy and didn't want to be on the podcast. A lot of people thought the podcast was stupid, and didn't really see the point in it. And I totally understand that, and I respect that. But then it got to a point where there was a lot of people just hating on the podcast for whatever reason. And I don't normally let that affect me, because it's like, if their opinion isn't positive, or their opinion isn't something that's going to help create something better, I don't really have time to listen to it. I don't really care to listen to it. But what I started noticing was a lot of friends and family members, people that were close to me, were having strong opinions about the podcast. And they were vocalizing it, and it struck a chord with me, because if someone's just hating just for the sake of hating, I can sit there and let that fall by the wayside. It doesn't really matter to me, because they don't really, if they're just hating to hate, they're not trying to see me succeed. They're not trying to see me do anything positive. They're not trying to see me fulfill any kind of promise or any kind of productivity in my life. They just want to see me fail. They get joy out of seeing me fail, because they realize, hey, misery loves company, and I'd rather see him fail than do better than me. But when my friends and family started talking about how much time and how much focus the podcast was taken away from them, it kind of struck a chord, and it kind of bothered me a little bit, because that was the complete opposite objective of what this whole podcast was for. The whole podcast was for me to sit there and get to spend more time with my friends and family, get to talk to them more, get to experience more things with them. And then they were feeling like it was actually putting more distance. And I think for a little bit, I kind of got infatuated with the thought of the podcast doing well and taking off, and perhaps being able to monetize it and have it be a source of income for me, and maybe, be able to do something that I'm passionate for and actually make a living doing it. So I got really, really excited about it, and I started to focus on it. And in that focus, I let a lot of things in my normal life, a lot of my relationships in my normal life, kind of fall by the wayside, which was the opposite intent of what I was trying to do, what I was trying to accomplish by my New Year's resolution. So I decided, you know what? I said I was going to do the podcast as long as it was fun, as long as it was positive in my life, and as long as it was affecting people positively in my life. And once it stopped affecting people positively in my life, and it started becoming more of a negative thing, that's when I said, I'm going to step away from it. And it was hard for me to step away from it, because I didn't want to feel like a failure. I don't want to feel like, one, I didn't want to give all the people that are just hating for the sake of hating a reason to be like, haha, see, I knew he would fail. That kind of just bothered me in the back of my mind. But more so, it was like something that I was really, really passionate about. It's something I still am pretty passionate about. I didn't want to see it just go away, and it was tough for me. It was tough for me to kind of swallow that pill, because I wanted it to be successful. I wanted people to like it. I wanted people to dig it. And not to mention, as much of a passion it is for me, it was really tough for me to get people to kind of come on and express things that were kind of personal to them, or just get in front of the camera and lights and microphones and feel normal. It's very, very, like, I'm terrified just doing this video right now, just myself. It's really kind of nerve wracking sitting in front of a camera, expressing yourself and being vulnerable. And I try to make them as comfortable as I could, but at the same time, there's only a handful of people that are willing to do that. It became tough. It became tough to manage. It became tough asking people. I didn't want people to get the vibe that every time I'm talking to anybody about anything, like, oh, it's the podcast, let's talk about the podcast. And then it became kind of like a running joke. People would like joke like, hey, how's the podcast? How's the podcast? And I didn't want it to be that. I didn't want it to be a joke. I didn't want it to be something that just that no one took serious. And I stopped for a while. And then I started getting people that actually dug the podcast, the people that were actually positive influences in my life, and spoke up about the podcast and spoke positively about the podcast and gave me good advice about the podcast. I started hearing them kind of like, hey, what's going on with the podcast? Are you going to do any more episodes? And they were like excited to see it. And I almost felt like I was letting them down. And I would put what people like in front of the feelings of my family. I wouldn't want my family to feel like, well, I don't really care about your feelings. I'd rather make these people happy because these people, dig what I'm doing. So I knew that I had to have these conversations with my friends and my family, the people that are close to me that were having these issues, and talk to them about what was wrong with what I was doing and how it bothered them. Um, so after having those conversations and kind of ironing everything out, I got to the point where I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to continue the podcast. I'm going to do it, but I'm going to change the format around a little bit. It's not going to be just bringing people on and talking to them about stuff that really no one seems to care about. Even though I kind of wanted to highlight these people's stories and their testimonies because everyone has a story. But now I'm going to do something different where I'm just going to give people a platform. So if you guys have anything you guys want to say, if you guys want to come on here and talk about anything, if there's something that's bothering you about the way people are being treated, the way you're being treated, the way society looks at things, if you guys want to come on and explain certain things that you feel like strongly about, I'm gonna give you guys a platform. You guys are more than welcome to come up. This is an open invitation for anybody who wants to come out here and just put their thoughts out and have people kind of toss it around and see what they think and formulate their own opinions on what you think about life and your ideals and your philosophies on life. I got a lot of philosophies on life that I kind of want to share as well, and just put it out there for the world. So it's there. It's something that people can reference later in life, and look at, and at the same time voice how I feel about what you might be talking about. Give my opinion, and if my opinion matches your opinion, I might even play devil's advocate for a while and just kind of say, well, did you ever think about this? And how about when people feel this way or that way? Or, should we consider, you know, even though it affects a small minority, should we be considering their feelings, and how much of their feelings should we be considering? Or is it going to change things too much to where the means don't define the ends, or they don't benefit the end? So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the podcast right now. I'm gonna post part 2 of Sammy P's podcast, finish that up, and then start a new I guess season of the podcast with the new format. So if anybody wants to come on and talk about whatever they want to talk about, reach out to me. You could go on cultured underscore the underscore podcast on Instagram. DM me, follow. I'll be posting things on there periodically. I also do a lot of my Twitter stuff. I'll put my Twitter stuff on there. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter as well, it's PGA Jose at Twitter. I'll put all that in the description below for you guys to check out. But yeah, so it's going to be a revamp of the podcast, and I hope you guys like what we're doing, and those that have been following and been kind of keeping up with it and giving me tons of feedback on it, and positive feedback, which I appreciate greatly. Thank you guys for kind of keeping my head in the right mindset. It's really kind of helped me put all this together, and I'm I've been putting off this podcast specifically for a while now, just because I was just nervous about getting in front of the camera again, because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to say it. And most importantly, I don't want to feel like I was failing at this, or feel like I'm tucking tail. And I also don't want people to think like, just because things in your life are difficult and they kind of they take more time and they take more effort and they take away from your loved ones and stuff like that. Just because it does that doesn't necessarily mean it's a negative thing. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. A lot of people that succeed, and this is something that I've kind of learned in life, or that I'm hoping to learn in life, is that I've always thought that when things get too difficult, I just kind of throw my hands up and like, I'm not going to deal with it. It's too much. I'm happy. I'm content with the way things are, and I'm just going to keep on going the way things are, because I don't want to rattle the cage. I don't want to rock the boat. But I've also noticed that my success in life hasn't really reached its full potential, and it might have to do with the fact that I have that mindset. So this is kind of a trial. This is kind of actually a little experiment that I'm going to try to see what happens when you don't give in to those easy impulses to say, hey, this is too difficult, this is too hard, it's causing too many problems with these people, I'm just going to give up, I'm just going to let it go. It's easier for me to just throw my hands up at it, and I'm going to dedicate myself to it and put the effort and the time in and see what happens. And hopefully, if this gets better and better and better, and I go from the 72 followers that I have now, thank you all, by the way, for following the channel, to 100, to 200, to 300, to wherever it goes. Hopefully it shows that with time, dedication, and focus, and putting your all into something that you care about and something you're passionate about, you can be successful. You can be successful at it, and you can accomplish your goals. So hopefully that is what happens. And if it doesn't, who cares? It's a lot of fun, and it's giving people and myself a platform to talk about issues that we should probably be talking about anyways. A lot of people shy away from things just because they don't want to get into discussions about it, and they don't want to get into arguments about it. But a lot of those arguments end up with people hugging things out, shaking hands, and saying, well, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't agree. But thank you anyways for sharing your point of view, because in the next time you have a discussion with somebody, you might be a little bit less aggressive in the way you go at it, because it's something that you already kind of have an understanding of because of the conversations you've had before. So you're a little bit more lenient, and you're not so hard-headed, and you're not so aggressive with your points, because you realize where this person now is coming from because of the conversation you had previously. You have a better understanding of the topic. You have a better understanding about the way people feel. So that's my goal. That's what I hope comes of this. This is a temporary little get up here. We'll be back outside. Unless you guys like this, let me know if you guys like this. We might start doing stuff in here. I don't know how the sound's going to be. We'll check that out. And it's a small space, so maybe it echoes a little bit more. But we'll figure things out and get back to the podcast. So thank you guys all for watching. Thank you guys all for subscribing. And comment down in the comment section and let me know what you guys think, how you guys feel, what you guys might want to see, who you might want to see on here. And I'll do my best to get them on without harassing them. But thank you guys for everything. Thank you all for the support. And we'll see you next time. Shoot.